Redditors who have outrun cops, how do you do it? Worked late at a store when I was 20 something. When I left, I went tearing up the road behind the store. It was curvy, and it was after midnight, thus no traffic. I had a sporty car and was banging through gears as fast as I could. It was a lot of fun. Unbeknownst to me, there was a sheriff's squad car sitting at a bank drive-thru, under the awning. Didn't see him until I passed him and it was too late, so I just kept the throttle mashed and raced up the road. At the time, I was living in an apartment complex only about 1/4 up the road from where I passed the cop. I glanced in my mirror and noticed the squad coming up the road after me, but without emergency lights on. I had a really good lead on him. I turn into the drive for my apartment complex and hit the button for the underground parking garage. Door opens. I scoot inside and park. Then watch as the door closes all the way. The best part, I get out of my car and walk into the lobby. Through the glass doors, I see the sheriff's squad. The entryway is locked. You have to buzz to get in. There are about 50 apartments, and my car is underground. He was never close enough to get my plate. There's almost zero way this cop can figure out who I am or what specific apartment I live in. So I waved to him and smiled. The look of frustration and defeat on his face was priceless. Elevator door opened, and for all practical purposes I disappeared before his eyes. When I was in the Air Force, I lived on base at Fort Warren in Cheyenne. It's pretty common for a highway patrolman to sit at the on-ramp nearest the base, so me and my friend would race from that ramp to the front gate of the base. Less than 2 miles. Since we were both MPs, we'd know the guard at the gate and get waved on without an ID check. When the highway patrol got to the gate, they'd have to show it and explain why they wanted on base, as well as be told by the guard they didn't know who just came through. This was around 2008 to 2011-ish. Much younger and dumber then. Relatively small downtown area. Was coming into town in a 45-mile-per-hour area and the cop was coming the other way, directly at me. I was probably doing about 20 miles per hour over the limit and he lit my butt up with a radar gun. He passed me, and I saw him turn around in my rear view mirror and flick on the lights. Generally I would never run, but I was 18 and was one speeding ticket away from losing my license on points. I gunned it, got into town and just weaved through a bunch of side streets until I was pretty sure I lost him. Here's the kicker, I'm pretty sure I lost him, and now I need to get onto the main highway quickly. I'm sitting at a red light, why I got for the light to turn, and guess who goes right through the intersection in front of me? It was 1 AM or so not many cars on the road. My headlights went right into his car as he went in front of me, enough that I could clearly see the guy. 18-year-old me crap a brick. Cop kept going and I gunned it to get onto the highway. My one and only cop story. In 8th grade, my friend and I were both crammed on one of those electric Razor scooters heading home and some lady started yelling at us. My friend slowed us down to hear what she was saying. Apparently she was giving us a heads up on a cop that was a block away. We got off the scooter, walked past the cop, and went on our way. TLDR. Avoided confrontation altogether. Senior year of high school, the night before Halloween. My friend dressed as a banana, and I dressed as a gorilla. I was going to chase him around campus during school on Halloween, so we decided to go for a quick test run around the neighborhood late at night. We ran around, and the banana costume we made was holding up real nicely. We saw a car turning around at a cul-de-sac, so we decided to run past it and see the driver's reaction. About 20 feet away from it, we realized it was a cop car. We were out past curfew, and cops really do nab you for it here. So we stop in our tracks and book it for the nearest park. Cop follows. My friend, a cross-country runner, took off ahead of me in his banana suit far into the park, into a trail deep into the neighborhood. I, a chubby dude in a gorilla suit, was wheezing when I got to the park. There were some trees that were about as wide as me, so I take cover behind one of them. The cop shines his searchlight around, and I'm terrified he can see a piece of my suit sticking out from the tree. After what seems like an eternity, the cop finally turns off his light and leaves. Cue. It was in Italy, about 25 years ago. I was a hitchhiker and cops wanted to arrest me for that, and for having been a bit snarky, I guess. They were fat, so I just decided to run in a field. Even with my backpack, it was very easy to outrun the one who made the effort to leave their car. I channeled my inner Michael Weston. I was very rudely cut off by this other motorist, and instead of letting it go, we proceed to race each other down Colfax, big main street in Denver. Eventually we hit a red light together, and I started waving a baseball bat out the window at him, while he, a tire ran towards me. Problem was that a cop was watching us from across the street, and shone his lights on us, which spooked him, and in turn spooked me, so we both took off from the red light. He was in the left turning lane, and I was in the straight lane, but we both ended up taking left turns, causing the cop to peel out after us. The guy in the left lane had the advantage in speed. It was a pickup versus a minivan, so he pulled away first and left the cops right behind me. I knew there was no outrunning the cops, so I pulled to the side of the road while the cop pulled up next to me. The cop pulled over next to me and was going to let his buddy out while the driver went after the other car. I saw this as my only opportunity to get rid of both of them. So with fear in my voice, I yelled to the cops as soon as the passenger door was open. He was pointing a gun at me. Go, go, go. They didn't even bat an eye. The passenger closed his door and they hauled butt towards the pickup truck, who was only a few blocks away. I took this opportunity to kill my headlights. Was about 10 PM at night, and proceed to make a U-turn and head down a nearby street and ditch the cops. Funniest thing, the cops pulled the guy over 1 block behind my house. So I took the side roads over to my place and parked in the backyard, and then was able to walk over to where the cops, who now had the man outside his car and was searching him in the car, and watch the whole ordeal. Only took them a few minutes after that to realize they had been had, so they let the truck driver leave while they doubled back trying to find me. Honestly, I was super in the wrong. I shouldn't have been doing what I was doing, and I would probably still be paying off the consequences of those actions had I not thought to try something. TLDR. Told cops other guy had a gun and used the distraction to escape from the cops. I was driving down the highway with a suspended license. Cop pulled out after I sped by him. I quickly exited the highway and drove around a small town for a while trying to navigate to the next on-ramp. It was a long detour but a necessary one. I was 14 and took my mom's car for a joyride like a jackass. Popped the passenger side front tire and freaked out, so I was driving it home on the rim. I had a cop turn on the cherries when I pulled into my neighborhood and freaked out some more and pinned it. I was doing about 80 kmph with sparks flying off the rim and my friend in the passenger seat yelling, "Let me out. I can't get caught by the cops." I told him to tuck and roll because we weren't going that fast and kept it pinned until I got home and parked in the garage. Somehow managed to dodge the cops but had to face my parents' wrath the next day. I have a good feeling the cops saw that it was a couple of kids out the vehicle and figured bringing home mom's car with a missing tire and absolutely fricked rim would be enough trouble for me to learn my lesson. Definitely not something I'm proud of. This happened over the summer. I was leaving a car meet and driving back home on the highway, cruising with 3 other cars from the meet. It was a wide open highway at like 1 AM, so naturally we were cruising at around 100 miles per hour. Off in the distance behind us I see some flashing lights and my heart dropped. I just left off the gas and started letting the car slow down without touching the brakes. The cop catches up to us fairly quickly and the next thing I know one of the other cars just takes off. The other 2 cars take off soon after. The cop that catches up to me, and at this point I'm still going 80-85. I thought for sure I was going to get pulled over. But nope, the cop just drove right by me and took off after the other 3. I got off at the next exit and drove back to my apartment. Nothing ever happened after that. So I technically didn't outrun the cops, but I didn't get caught, so that must count for something, right? If a cop is tailing you from a long way back, braking is like admitting guilt. Use engine braking. Was in my very fast Mini Cooper 2.0L, twin turbos, many custom parts, matte black with gloss black stripes, black rims, and odd. Racing on Stero Drive in Boston. I blasted by a statey doing at least 120. His car may match mine in HP, give or take, but I'm half the mass and can handle circles around him. Changed jurisdictions, took the BU. bridge heading through Alston to the Brighton-Cambridge line, and I see a 4-bay mom and pop car wash. I can hear like 10x the sirens now, so we J-turn in and jump up and pull the gate down. Lucky us, it's tended by a 16-year-old kid we come to find. As we roll around back, I handed him $100 and said to pull the other garage door down and mark this bay out of order with a sign. If the car was still there upon our short return, I'd give him more money. Went to the bar across the street, had some wings, beers, watched the last 4 innings of a Sox game, brought the kid some hot wings, a Mountain Dew, and $200 cash upon our return. Drove the car home. No issues. Got off scot-free. You're a solid guy. Hopped an at least 15 feet fence, with the boost of a tall friend, into a cemetery and booked it as fast as I possibly could. The cops in my town range from jacked guy who could run you down in 5 seconds to 50-year-old fat cop who couldn't chase a meatball if it fell out of his grinder. I was about 17 and was skateboarding at a local elementary school with some friends at night when 2 cops pulled up. The neighborhood was pretty vast and lots of houses had fences, so my 2 buddies and I booked it, and they took off after us. We jumped quite a few fences and the cops were ruthlessly following us. So, we jump another fence and make a right angle to another backyard where we hid in these bushes for like 30 minutes while they walked around trying to find us. Super close call. Dang small town cops. Okay, so I am a freshman in college and this happened about a month ago. I was at this house party and somehow this cop was able to get into the house. Probable cause or something. So to get out, me and my buddy ended up going out the back door and jumped a fence and ran about 6 blocks till we got on campus. Next day we find out everyone at that party got mic or MIPS. Glad we got out of there. My dad when he was younger was driving a scooter without a license. The cops chased him down trough back alleys. At one point in the chase the cop car crashed the scooter. He ran away and the cops stopped chasing him. The cops just took it as a win because he lost the scooter. I was driving down the road in the middle of a blizzard. Dozens of cars were stuck in the snow. Traffic was not moving at all. I was flying through the middle of the road. Saw a cop turn on their lights as I was approaching from behind. I passed the cop and just kept right on going. No way he could follow me. He was just as stuck as the other drivers. I was on a snowmobile. Was on my way to my buddy's house at about 16-17 years old. Flying down this back road doing about 85 in a 45. Round a corner pretty fast I saw a cop on the side of the road up ahead with just his red dome light on in the car. Could have slowed down, but made the genius decision to floor it because I was so close to my friend's house. Called my buddy and yelled at him to open his garage. Saw the copper turn his lights on right after I passed. I was able to speed the remaining 1-2 miles to my friend's house, pull in the garage and close it before he saw. It was definitely adrenaline rushing. Went outside his house a few times that night to smoke and there were cops driving around the neighborhood all night. Waved at them every time they passed LOL. On my motorcycle broad daylight. So I was on my way to my buddy's house. From the funeral we just had for his brother. My other buddy had been riding with me during the funeral and his bike broke down. So we stopped and got his bike and were on our way. My buddy is in the lead, another buddy in a car with a police scanner is between us and I am at the back. We were almost there. We turn onto Lawrence and the cop lights me up. My buddy in THW car in front freaks out and pulls over. I cut into oncoming traffic, dropped a second and I am gone. Cop chased MD for 3 miles in the middle of the day in heavy traffic. I was squeezing through spots that were too small, running the lights, doing about 140 on my motorcycle. Weenie got on the highway and cut across to the shoulder and took off again is when they stopped chasing me. Well, it turns out my temporary plate had corroded and was not visible, and because I looked suspicious although I thought I looked nice. Anyway, it turned out half of the funeral guests watched me start the chase and half were at the finish line. When I got to the house for the reception everyone was coming up to me telling me how gnarly it was that I did that on that day. That was my 3rd chase via motorcycle. I got jumped in the middle of town by a bunch of dudes as some sort of gang initiation when I was 14. Afterwards I went to the police station with a broken nose and fricked up jaw. The cop told me it was my fault for the way I was dressed. Black jeans and a black band shirt, and it's not his job to solve my problems and I should take matters into my own hands. This cop was a real butthole to every kid out there. One of my friends knew where he lived, so we went and took a crap on his cop car and smashed up a bunch of his panels and windows with a bat. He came out of his house and tried to give chase, but we outran him. Felt good taking matters into my own hands. I was on foot in a dense urban area doing something that I shouldn't have been doing. A car parked across the street springs to life and starts driving aggressively towards me. It was an unmarked cop car. I spotted the car pretty early, so I had a bit of a head start. I ran down a nearby set of stairs that led to a walking path that connected to a train station. Once I broke the line of sight from the car, I ducked between the buildings down a different set of stairs that led into an alley, ran down the alley a bit and took off my coat and hat and stashed them to change my appearance. Then I just walked as casually as I could back into the street. I got pretty lucky. I knew the area well enough that I was pretty sure I could get away. Plus I had enough of a jump on them that they never followed me on foot and instead ended up circling around in their car, but by that point I had already stashed my coat and hat and was doing my best to play it cool. They drove past me as I was on the street walking away, but they never stopped me. It was about 7-8 years ago. I was at a high Hill graduation party for a friend. He was a cool kid and had your typical cool parents. So naturally he had a keg at his open house. Surprisingly, it was a pretty chill party for the most part. Not your typical crap show of drunk high school kids you would expect. I think it was because his parents and some older family members were there and kind of kept it under control. Well, somehow the police were called. It was either neighbors or some kids left and got pulled over and spilled the beans on where they had been. I can't remember what the story was or if I ever found out for sure. I was sitting at a picnic table in the garage with a couple of friends drinking my beer and just having a good time. Well, I looked to my right and saw 2 county cops walking in through the front of the garage. I took that as a sign that the party was over. I sat down my beer, nudged my friends. The 4 of us got up and just walked out the back door of the garage. As soon as we were out the back door, we blocked it for the woods. We had walked to the party from my other friend's house who lived probably a mile away around the corner. Well, we weren't about to just go walking down the road to get back, so we ended up taking this huge roundabout way back to my friend's house. As we were going, we ended up picking up other refugees from the party that were looking for safety. Like Moses leading the Jews from Egypt, we led all of the stragglers back to my friend's house. I think probably 10-15 total. Since we still had a decent sized group and the night was young, we just picked the party back up. All in all, it worked out pretty well. Frickin' Adam had to go back for one more bag. My brother and I were hanging in a trail behind our subdivision when we saw a cruiser light up, spin into the trail and start to chase and overweight and overloaded Adam down. Brother and I split in different directions. Both of us being track athletes may have helped, cause we might have set a new school 100 meters record. After I turned a bend in the trail, I jumped into the woods, ran about 20 feet and hid in some thick bushes. I could see the cops exit their car and tackle Adam. I stayed deathly still and eventually made it to my girlfriend's house to hide out. Didn't matter. Adam ratted us out and there was a cop waiting when I finally got home. Brother and I still managed to talk our way out of trouble, but that's a story for another day. Hopefully by the time you read this it is another day, so tell the story. I was 18 and drunk. Being stupid. I had a red cup out in public and I'm yelling at these women in an apartment complex. They were laughing, so I thought they were into me. I see a cop on foot approaching, so I put down my cup and change the tone in my voice to make it seem like it's all casual. Cop approaches me, asked for my ID. I tell him I don't have any and he grabs me and says, "You're coming with me." I physically remove his hands off me by batting them away and say, "Get off me, man." He says, "You just hit a cop. You're under arrest." Before he could finish the sentence, I Usain Bolt out of there. I think he's right on my butt, so I try to pick up speed. I look behind me and he's way behind, huffing and puffing on his radio. I realize he's a fat, out of shape cop and there's no chance he'll catch me. I turn a corner and see flashlights in the distance. I assume it's more cops, so I run opposite that direction. In an even stupider decision, I hide in some bushes and wait for 2 females to get out of their car. I jump out at them and say, "Cops are after me. Act like you know me and walk with me." They're terrified but agree. I try and make drunk small talk, but it's not popping. I get paranoid and just enter a building. I call my bro and by coincidence I'm in the building right by his. I'm waiting for him and these hippies invite me up to their room. As I wait, my bro comes into me smoking with them. He brings me to his place and he's been making fun of me about this ever since. That was about 15 years ago. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.